you want your baby to be okay. You panic. You think, I had a baby, and now suddenly somebody's telling me that he or she is not okay. I want to do something about that.
But the thing is, they've always been the same person. They've never changed. It's just that title or diagnosis that they've been given. So then all your hopes of what you thought that they might achieve
changes.
It's just like changes, but it's just going down a different path.
That's right.
But it's just almost like you're bereaving. Yeah, so I just want parents like yourselves to be empowered, not to have that lost feeling, to have that, you know, like our kids are second class citizens because they're just so not. Our kids want to go to the right school. They want to have education. You know, they want to get married, they want to have a girlfriend, they just want the same thing, but it's just got to be slightly different for everybody. And we've got to try and find that path. You know, and I know with my son Patrick, trying to get a girlfriend and all the rest of it, and talking about it, and I know it's like a big issue at the moment, and it's taken over our lives, but you know, you just try and support them the best way you can. The other thing is, would you say that I sometimes feel this when I go home, because obviously I've got two young men on the spectrum, very different from each other. One's right very severe end, hardly any speech whatsoever, and you've got my eldest son who just like, it's almost like mental torture, the amount of questions that you get asked. But it's almost like you're quite lonely in the house, even though you're living with other...
Yeah,
it's a busy lonely. That's how I always describe it, a busy lonely.
Yeah, because it's just like... And so, something else I was talking to somebody about, that when you're ill, it's like the end of the world because you are the person, the linchpin that keeps everyone together. And we have what I call the magic blanket in the house. So when I'm ill and I've got a temperature or whatever, they'll sit me on the sofa, cover me with this blanket and expect me to be better within 5 minutes. So we have like the magic blanket.
You get 5 minutes.
So they like cover you up and then it's like, okay, back to normal now. And it's just, you can sort of almost feel the anxiety because you're not there doing what you're
controlling what they're used to you controlling. That's right.
Yeah. No, I'm not allowed to be ill anyway. So no, you're not.
So it's unheard of. And that leads on actually for me, and I know you felt we all feel like this. You just said about, you know, us not being well for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That is then leads to another feeling of when we aren't around. That's another scary prospect for them. You know,
I know.
You think when they're
I think as a mum, we all think that as well.
Any mum.
That's something any mum would think.
Exactly.
But in our situations, I think it's that much more.
Because you worry, because you just think they're never going to have that
background.
full independence. I think that's, you know, and that's why progression is an amazing and very important thing for I think any child on the spectrum. Is any little bit of progression, you're like, wow, this is
you hold on to it, don't you? And it might be nothing to somebody, but to us it's like
it's
huge as a family.
And that's hard when you've got two different children. Like you say, I've got Ryan and Lucy. She's got totally different needs to Ryan. I mean, she's not autistic, and she's 4. We can be at a party. Ryan can't bear the noise. He wants to come home. She still wants to stay. It's both of them having different needs.
It's having to juggle that.
That's a really good point. I find that too because I've got 2 boys. One obviously Henry is on the spectrum, William's not, and I would find that so in like scenarios at the cinema or at parties. So say I took them both to see Star Wars the other day, whereas the second the music started, and I didn't think about it. The first time I've ever seen taken Henry to see a 12. And it was louder. Everything was a lot louder, and he was straight away. Was like, I can't stay.
And then you feel tired, aren't you?
So William said, I want to stay. This is Star Wars. I want to watch it. And thank goodness there was a droid straight away, and he started giddy, and it was fine. And then he wanted to stay because he was engaged. But it is that difference.
I've been torn between the two, not knowing who to, you know,
it's really like that, and then you almost get a feeling of guilt.
That's it. The guilt.
I look at Aaron sometimes and think, you know, I so wasn't there for you at certain times that I should have been. But
because you need to dedicate,
it's
you have to
kind of moving that all around and putting that happy medium.
There's 2 different ways of parenting, because when you've got one neurotypical and one on the spectrum like myself, it's really, really hard to try and engage both of them in one activity.
Methods, haven't you?
Totally.
And it's getting them to understand, the siblings to understand. I find it quite difficult. Henry's older brother is not very sympathetic to Henry's needs. He's a typical boy, and he's like, well, I don't care. I don't care if Henry's autistic. I want to do this and I want to do that. Let him cry. Let him like kick off. So, and I understand what William's like. I understand that he doesn't always want to do what Henry wants to do.
Of course.
It's quite annoying. But yeah, it's a juggling act, isn't it? But it's sort of when you get used to it, I think, and that's the thing is accepting it. Once you've got that acceptance of right, this is what my life's going to be like. This is how it is.
That's
You find ways,
exactly it. Yeah.
You find ways, positive ways, and you just all get used to it.
The other thing I wanted to ask was, do you think you've become like a different person? So before autism and after autism, I think I've become completely different. I don't even know who I am anymore.
It takes you down a completely different path.
Yeah,
completely different. You have to accept, once that diagnosis was there, I think it's accepting that your whole life's... I looked at my sisters and friends that had a completely different social life to us.
Yeah.
And I knew at that point, actually, it's going to be like this forever. It's not just going to be in the early years.
That's right. Yeah,
it's
they don't
going
grow
to
out of
continue.
it, that's it.
And it just makes you... I evaluate life differently now. I look at things, so I disregard other people's ignorance, if you like, and see it as a, do you know what, feelings matter more than that on its own. So I do definitely think it changes you as a person, without a doubt. And I think for the better.
Yeah,
I do think for the better.
Yeah.
And the fact of who you meet along that journey, the whole thing's much, much more
It
positive.
changes your life path slightly, doesn't it?
It does,
It puts you on a bit of a swerve and in another direction. But it doesn't mean it has to be in a bad direction. It's just different.
No, that's right. It's
We're
a
not going to
different
know
path.
now how it would have been without autism in our lives. So we just and look at what we've achieved. Look at all the amazing things that Anna does and that we all do. And I feel it's made me a stronger person.
I think social media's been great because I think we've created like a virtual autism community, if you like. And it doesn't matter where you live, you can chat to someone, we can share strategies that might have worked. It might not work for your son, but it might work for your son. Just tips, or even if you just want to rant. I get so many parents who say, do you mind if I just rant in your inbox? But I don't really want you to say anything, I just want to rant. So I said, rant away. So it's just, and it just says I feel better. I don't want them to feel like I felt all those years ago.
Completely.
Yeah, because I was told that,
really
you know, Patrick and Angela was the only
that.
kids in Hillingdon that had autism. That was what was I told, and I just thought, I felt like, really? And I thought, have I done something wrong here?
That's the whole thing, I think. Maybe the autism's got talent and things. That whole thing brings it back to making it all positive.
That's what I was going to say. When
mine was, he
was diagnosed at 10, and we hadn't met anybody until we went to Autism Got Talent. So we was 13. So in 3 years, we didn't meet not one other person that was, on the spectrum. We didn't get shown where to go, who to talk to. Nothing.
I think the sort of signpost in some areas it's quite good, but it's almost like. This is the diagnosis, here you go, and it's up to you now to get on with it, and then that's when you think, right, what do I do now? Because there's that many, and then when you start doing research, there's that many different ways of working with children and adults with autism. I think I counted about 17 different sort of therapies or strategies.
No, it's the awareness and the acceptance of it, and also when you do get the diagnosis, like what you say, you have to learn a whole new language, and suddenly you've got this new world of EPs and OTs and
all these acronyms, isn't it? Just like SALT.
What does
that mean? And you believe everything the local authority tells you at first because you don't know any different.
That's right.
And then once you find out that the way they've worded that, that's not quite actually what it means. It's not. I'm thinking I'm going to get speech and language therapy every day, but it could actually mean they could get it once a year. But it's just the way that things are written, and you learn by speaking and chatting
to others, isn't it? Yeah, that's been through it. You only know it unless you've been through it.
The more people understand, the more awareness it's raised. So when they're older, fingers crossed,
hopefully with all what you've done and all what you're doing, more support will come around that. So there's another positive come out.
That's what I hope for.
And breaking down those barriers. Just
So well done, Anna.